Do you see differences in hotel television use by market or by territory or by time of year? Are there any overarching trends that you could talk about?
Well, I see, first of all, there's a noticeable difference between the audience share ratings and stuff of certain cable programming in hotels versus the mass market. And as you might expect, because it's in these hotels, the typical consumer staying there, their household income is much higher than the general population. They index, through the roof on business and different travel respects. So it's different. I think for those reasons, it's also different because unlike the home, where you've got a lot of channels, hundreds of channels, and you tend to just circulate between your favorite, dozen or so or half dozen. In the hotels, you're really not sure what's showing up. The average hotel only has 34 channels that no one knows where they are on the remote, so they tend to circulate through them, and they end up on channels they don't watch at home. And that's been good for us. It's been a great sampling mechanism for programmers, and we've done research to show that what percentage of people go on then to watch a channel or a program at home that was first introduced to it through the hotel, and it's over 25%. And that's helped us actually now getting where the programmers are paying to get into the hotels, as opposed to historically where we used to pay them for that. But getting back to the main question, there's a lot of changes in terms of viewership by day part, and again, it varies from home because people are checking into hotels different times. Their sleep patterns are often different. Sometimes people are having trouble sleeping in hotels, so there's a lot more late night viewing than you'd suspect. And then, of course, seasonality plays a big part of it. Whether it's leisure travel versus business travel, we see a lot of differences in terms of what programs. So again, we're trying to really take all that information and use that to make intelligent recommendations to our advertisers on where they should schedule their units, how they should run, tell them to stop thinking about it the way they're thinking about it with the at-home TV viewing, because that doesn't necessarily apply to this. And even with the channels, they might buy certain channels, news channels or not news channels at home because that's a better way of getting to a certain consumer. We've already have a better lens or filter on that consumer, the fact that they're in these upscale hotels, and so they can sort of dispense with that way of thinking about it and try to think about some new ways of packaging and using the programming cycles to reach the audience that they want to reach.
And do you have commercial time to sell? How are the pods structured?
Yeah, so just to be clear on that point, what we've done is we've went out to 10, we have a private network in about 375,000 of those rooms, the most upscale of the rooms and the most major markets of the rooms. We've actually installed our own private network, so it's our own satellite system. We went out and negotiated the rights for 10 channels to have all of the national and local ad units. So these are channels like Fox News, CNBC, MSNBC, A&E, History, Bio, the Weather Channel, and some others. And we then just sell that much like traditional, where we have that whole unit. Although they're not always 30s, we can do longer form in there. We can be a lot more creative with how we use that space. But then we just put those commercials in there, and they run on top of the other commercials normally on those channels.
Is there any thought of creating an ancillary business measuring out of home?
It's there's a lot of interest in that. Nielsen's been pushing a lot of things. There's not only we're working with them on our super block, which is again our commercial network, but also our ITV network and all of that data and stuff that we're harnessing through the set-top boxes. How does that come in to play? We've wondered how we can monetize that perhaps in other ways on behalf of programmers, and we've been even introducing into the hotels not just broadcast programmers, which we can get through satellite, but we have servers in these hotels, so we have server channels, and we've been putting internet content on there. We've experimented with channels that are golf channels, fashion channels, maybe a thing called Do Not Disturb, which is the best of the web, and that kind of things in there. And it's and again, there's just a lot of data that comes out of that particular thing that is not really being used very much right now by the agencies. We would suspect that as more and more of the interactive agencies are influencing general agencies and stuff, that people will be a lot more interested in some of this data.
It's interesting you should say that, because I know agencies are concentrating on ways of getting cross-platform measurement, and this looks like a form of that.
Yeah, I think we had a summit down in Miami maybe a month ago. We invited down a lot of agency leaders, and it was ourselves and a couple other companies that were big digital out-of-home players. They were kind of more like TV away from home. It still had a lot of the same aspects of that. But we really invited them down to try to understand what it is that they were looking at, what interests them, how we could supply some of that data, how we could change our formulas, potentially even leading to different ways of buying the media. And we've been talking to software companies out there to try to get their models into allowing for that flexibility or new generation of presenting ad units, bidding, buying on ad units. Again, more hopefully in the future aligned with sort of online models.
And what do you think the timeline is going to be for that initiative?
You know, everything is always slower than you think, so I would have thought it would be here by now. You've seen it in pockets. I think as some of the big cable companies really are driving some of this testing in local markets, and eventually can aggregate that over other markets, that will really usher it in full. But we are seeing more and more budgets coming to this that are not just tests, but people that are comfortable with this approach to media and this convergence of sort of broadcast units with interactive types of units.